Hello and welcome back to the ProDota 2 National Cup. This should be our last game for the day, and it's going to be between Ukraine and Germany. Game number one was a very convincing win for the Ukraine squad, as it felt like they were the ones in control for the majority of it. And a lot of it comes down to the support picks for either side. The Visage, as well as the Tusk, really never felt like they had a super huge impact and weren't able to protect Slark's farm in the early game. So we'll have to see if Germany can shake things up, and with the Ogre Magi, it looks like they'll definitely do just that and take a page out of Ukraine's book. I'm Grant SV. Once again, I'm going to be joined by Llama Down Under.
Yeah, this is really interesting. I don't think the Bounty Hunter was banned last game at all, and now a first round ban, kind of not 100% sure what's going on, but we again see Ogre Magi first pick Night Stalker banned out. He's been destroying games, so Ogre Magi now on the side of Germany. Let's see if they can get the multicasting luck that we saw last game.
Forecast four times multicast in the well
Yeah.
is absolutely hilarious, and the double triple when Ogre Magi
Yeah,
was level
he
14.
he was very lucky, but that's how I like my Ogre Magi. So it's been really funny to watch all of that. I imagine our pickups. We've seen the Queen of Pain really prioritized over other mid heroes, although maybe just gonna go with the SF. They know Aloha Dance is very comfortable on him, but instead we see a Doom first pick.
Okay.
That just happened.
Aside from being a Doom, the question is why. Doom is generally regarded as a pick that you go for when you don't have enough lockdown for one incredibly mobile hero, like an Ember, a Storm, an Anti-Mage, something along those lines, maybe a Queen of Pain. But first pick, especially after an Ogre Magi, if this was like a first pick Anti-Mage, I could totally see the Doom pick working out for them. Right now, it kind of feels like a Doom for the sake of Doom, although he is a lot more powerful after the recent buffs to Scorched Earth, the recent buffs to Level Death. These are nice and all. I think he can still save Doom till like the third or fourth pick, and maybe even fifth, depending on the draft. So a lot of priority being placed on the Doom hero. We'll have to see if that faith is well placed.
Yeah, you can certainly try to pick around the Doom, but it also does deter things like the Anti-Mage. I mean, you can just say, no, we're running the Anti-Mage into the Doom, deal with it. But it will deter a couple of things, ideally the Quap and the Anti-Mage, so maybe that's the idea of picking the Doom up early, or just wanting to give it a try. We all know that Ukraine not afraid of tying in this tournament, so I'm not sure what's the best thing to go up with the Ogre Magi now that there is a Doom on the table. You know, everybody suffers when it comes to him. So I don't know if
Yeah,
they're good counters in quotes.
nobody wants to be doomed is the bottom line. It's a terrible feeling. You're effectively taken out of fight for 15 seconds for most of your spellcasters, and although you might survive through the doom, you aren't going to be doing very much of anything. Some heroes that can function even when they're doomed, a lot of very heavy right clickers that don't rely super heavily on their spells, like a Shadow Fiend generally builds tanky and generally has a lot of damage even if he can't throw out his Requiem and Raises. Granted, Requiem and Raises are awesome, but even if he gets doomed, there's still the chance that he's able to man fight and keep on going. You'll probably change your build up a little bit, probably not go for Mechanism against the Doom. You won't be able to get that off, and that won't help you much. But something along those lines. It's something that can be worked around, but not something you want to work around. So in that sense, because it is going to throw Germany out of their comfort zone, it's a reasonable first pick, although not something we see often.
Yeah. So either way, taking a really long time. I mean, everything you said, very true. Don't know the best way to respond to this, and taking a lot of their time on Germany, probably actually planning out their entirety of their draft, right? Because now you've got to pick very carefully. The other the other thing is they don't want to deal with that harassment Bane lane again
Yeah.
with that could potentially come out with the enfeeble. So maybe other carries that can deal with that.
No. Okay, so the thing about the two heroes picked up by Ukraine, it's probably the best amount of single target BKB piercing disable that you can get. Bar none, Fiend's Grip and Doom are incredible, so you need to have an answer to the Fiend's Grip, and you need a hero that is either fast enough to get away before the Doom comes out as he's going for the cast animation, or somebody that's hard to figure out who the real one is, some good illusion carry, maybe a Naga. But we won't see that choice until later on. Shadow Fiend, in fact, is going to be banned out by the Dire side. I like that ban a lot. Combos really nice with the Shaker, good on the Radiant side. And as I kind of already touched on, one of the heroes that could, in theory, still fight through a Doom. But it's really hard for them to find a clear option. And I think Earthshaker, although it might not be the clear option, is probably as good as it gets when it comes to finding a support that's always okay. Like, it's never bad to have an Earthshaker on your team. Worst case scenario, even if he's super underleveled, super underfarmed, he's a walking fissure. Pretty damn good.
Yeah. So I wonder though if just with an Ogre Magi Earthshaker, something like a Rubik Ogre Magi is not the best hero to steal from, but we all know that you want that zero cost point fissure. Always nice. And Ogre Magi does have a stun, does have a dot. It's lots of fun there. That Bloodlust. Oh, Rubik can steal it and Bloodlust up their towers. Anyway, it just feels like a nice way that a lot of teams prefer to counter the Earthshaker and is another strong support. Although maybe not as powerful as the Dazzle or Witch Doctor that we've been seeing dominate.
Yeah, which is probably one of the reasons why we're not going to see Rubik banned out, but it is an option. Right now, it's the turn of Ukraine to pick out those carries, and I really like the Phantom Lancer and Shadow Fiend ban. I think those were the two, respectively, best safe lane and best mid picks when it comes to physical damage output. Phantom Lancer, although his cast point on Doppelganger is increased, and it is harder to get away from a blinking Doom, it's still mobile enough and tricky enough to where it's not reliable to catch the real one. And that's something that would help them a lot. And the Diffusal Burn, a great asset.
So, that does probably leave us with the Slok again. He's been very popular pickup. Sometimes even stuff like Wraith King, but Gyrocopter not really touched these matches. I wonder if we'll maybe finally get to see him again.
Yeah, Gyrocopter would be a good pickup for either of these teams, really. He is a lot more reliant on his spells than other carries. A Doom Gyrocopter is pretty useless, in fact, and Doom was traditionally picked up as a counter to Gyrocopter like 5 patches ago or something now, but it's going to be a jug pick for the side of Ukraine. Juggernaut, as far as carries that can sustain through the constant harass and trade hits against an Ogre, is pretty high up there when it comes to the melee characters, but I'm still not 100% sold. It's another one of his picks that they probably could have gotten later on. Are there any chances that this is a support jug? Either way, those chances are completely gone now that we have a Disruptor pick, and the IO is the choice for Germany.
Yeah. This is gonna be interesting. We still don't know what it's being run with, but I really like this Disruptor pickup, of course. If they do relocate in, you can glimpse one of them backwards, and then you just get to kill off the other. So I like that pickup. The jug, I don't know how well, I mean, I don't see super awesome synergy here.
No, neither do I.
I was thinking maybe you could get some weird push Healy business off, but not quite seeing it. Doom could eat a regen creep. But I think just going to try to go with a hard carry jug. And yeah, there's the most common partner of the IO. We got a Tiny out here. I wonder if this will be mid or their safe lane.
I'm tempted to say that this is going to be their mid lane matchup, but the good news, if you're rooting for Germany, is that they get to see the entire lineup of the dire side before they make that call. And so they'll know exactly what IO Tiny would be going up against, in theory, in the mid lane. Even though IO is going to be partnered with the Tiny, or rather Tiny is going to be partnered with the IO, I'd still love to see a Blink Dagger. The burst damage on Disruptor and Bane pretty much gets you instant kills for the first half of the game or so, and maybe even longer depending on who they give the farm priority towards. It's going to be very difficult to be the Disruptor and be the Bane, although Disruptor is still a great counter against the IO Tiny combination inside team fights. Bane is also no slouch. Fiend's Grip is incredibly hard to deal with if you're Tiny.
Yeah. So, not the. I don't know. This looking more and more. Do you think it's the Ogre or Earthshaker offlane?
Ogre offlane, pretty much no questions asked. Earthshaker offlane feels very underwhelming right now, and it's probably one of the only spots where the fissure damage nerf actually plays a part. And even when Earthshaker was at his peak last patch, I didn't like Earthshaker offlane all too much unless the lane was an absolute pushover. If he was like 1v1 versus, I don't know, I'm not sure what scenario it would be, but another melee hero we could actually get the Blink Dagger farm, then maybe it works out well for you, but it's going to be a Techies ban coming out from Ukraine. I can't knock it. Techies would have been incredibly annoying, although it's probably not the pick. It's annoying enough to warrant the ban.
Definitely. And Infinite Mines, Juggernaut can't really spin through those landmines. Gonna have a bad time, as they say. The Magnus ban out. I guess he could be the mid. Does he perform particularly well against IO Tiny? I mean, I think only if your positioning is bad for that skewer, but...
Okay, so the thing about the Magnus against the IO Tiny is as with a lot of mids that you'll put against Iotiny, isn't expected to win his lane, but just spam out and get farm. And it would be, it's not a bad matchup for Mag. He should be able to keep his distance, shouldn't get caught out by the Avatos combo, although he's going to be under a lot of duress, and if Earthshaker comes in, could still die. The benefit outweighs the fact that his laning situation wouldn't be as good. A Juggernaut with the in-power inside the Omni Slash is absolutely ridiculous, and having that new BKB piercing AoE disable is going to be ridiculous for your team fight. If you got an Axe on your Disruptor, BKB hardly does anything this game, given that scenario. So I think
Yeah.
Magnus is a warranted ban, although in the laning stage, you're right, it wouldn't perform as well as... Oh,
Oh,
okay.
I love it.
Yeah, yeah. I'll let you take this one.
Oh, just, I mean, you can use those fatal bonds and then, of course, the IO and Tiny are together, so you can get a lot more harassment than you normally would. A lot of Warlocks, when they go mid, they max the Shadow Word Fatal Bonds combo, or sometimes they pick up Heal. It really depends on the player, but I think here, you probably just max Fatal Bonds and Shadow Word, and you just put that one on the other, and then they're stacking all this damage. IO, yeah, IO's gonna have a bottle and tether to heal, but it's not gonna maybe do as much. And now there's an Ember Spirit pickup, so I wonder if they'll try to dodge with this IO Tiny, but maybe they'll just rotate the Warlock wherever they go.
I don't know. I'm not sure if it's about the lane counter that I really like this Warlock pick, but rather the big teamfight combination coming out from their team as a whole. Let me set the flags correctly, but Warlock right now has no real direct counter to those golems once they get down on the ground. It's an incredibly great spell to have at your disposal. Once you get Agadom's Scepter, his power is amazing whenever he has that cooldown. The downside is that the cooldown is fairly long. It is something that the enemy team can work around. But once they have Doom, once they have Fiend's Grip, once they have Static Storm and the Golems, I could see this turning into a very scary Deathball push, even though the only quote-unquote pushing hero that they have for their side is the Juggernaut with their healing Ward, just by the virtue of the fact that their five-man fight is so much superior to that of the enemy team. Ember Spirit is going to be the last pick for the Radiant side. I'm going to crash out. We'll get back to the game as soon as possible. But Ember Spirit is going to be so shut down if he gets doomed, if he gets disabled at all. Fiend's Grip, no matter what it is, Ember Spirit is going to be absolute paper inside of this game.
Yeah, it's a bit of a greedy lineup, or a greedy pickup, feeling like he's going to need a lot of tank up items, which isn't really the path. I mean,
I don't think he can
maybe
afford to go for tank up items.
yeah, he's generally a hero who picks up some form of boots. A lot of people prefer bots, which of course not making you tanky. Battle Fury, no stats there. Then you go into your Daedalus, again, no stats, and maybe then a Scotty, right? But a lot of people prefer the damage route, and he might be feel forced to pick up a Manta. He might feel forced to pick up a
I think
BKB.
he needs a Lincoln's.
Yeah,
he needs a Lincoln
a lot of
super
things.
bad.
So,
Yeah.
gonna be really scary. And as you said, the Lincolns, but then there are a number of single target things that go through BKB. Oh, it is rough for an
The
Ember
thing
Spirit.
about this game is, although I think Germany's draft is not bad by any means, it's going to require a lot more finesse than Ukraine's. If Ukraine get an early advantage, they can just brute force their way, and it's so easy. All you do is you press R, and the enemy team can't do anything about it if you're ahead. So the first 10 minutes of this game is absolutely crucial for Germany. If they can get a decent advantage, if their Ogre does well, if their Tiny can get some early levels, most importantly, then maybe they can come back into it. But I think just by ease of execution, Dara have an easier draft. But with the Avalanche connecting on Aloha dancing with the Fissure Wall up, maybe they can get first blood. This would help a huge amount. And Io is going to draw first blood. Even though I don't believe he got the bounty rune, he is going to have the bottle from the 0-minute mark. In the meantime, up towards top, they are going to get the kill onto the Ogre Magi as he stuck around a little too long inside that Blade Fury. A 1-for-1 trade. I'm going to crash again, but still favoring Germany.
Yeah, and so also the other effect of this early mid kill is going to be that Warlock is asking someone to buy him a TP. So Coop getting an even better mid lane. He already, of course, has a bottle coming out to him. Going to make his lane against the Warlock a little bit easier. And then the bottle will be going to a moment. So on the downside, the same thing for the Ogre. Has to take that long trek back to lane. Actually, so we have a pause, but Io and Earthshaker were kind of roaming middle. Maybe they were doing some good harass onto Doom, who was making his way top, and he took a beating.
Warlock already is in a pretty severe disadvantage in the Io Tiny matchup. He's a very immobile mid-hero, and an immobile mid-hero against Tiny, it's a terrifying lane to play. If you get caught up by the Avatos combo, despite how much sustained damage you have with the Shadow Ward and with all that coming out for your hero, you have no way to combat that raw amount of burst and resolution. Looks like he's going to be sent all the way back into the woods. Go
Yeah,
back.
I'm not sure
Yeah.
if he's going home just to regen or whether he's actually headed to the jungle. It's also one of those things where I think he was maybe hoping to go into the Radiant jungle, of course, to eat a creep, but
That's the
no
ideal scenario.
such luck because they are there. Io and Earthshaker are there
Ew.
and they're bringing it.
I crashed again.
Yeah, I only got one crash this time, so I feel very
On
lucky. I don't want to
average,
jinx
we
it.
have 4
Oh, okay. I
for both
normally
of us. So if you only have
okay.
1 crash, I have 3.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's just how it is.
I usually get the 2 or the 3, but today I don't want to jinx it. But usually it's within this first minute, so I feel like I'm not going to crash again.
Ah,
I say too early.
the computer's not responding. Okay, there we go. That was terrifying. Alright, let's not have any more issues, Reborn.
Yeah.
Play
I've heard
nice.
some. Yeah, I'm gonna do a full reinstall later tonight. I've heard some stuff floating around that there are some memory leaks, but if you full reinstall, they get fixed. So, gonna try to give that a go. But we'll see later on. Still probably Crash City up in this reborn. It looks like you're back. It's been paused, by the way. Juggernaut is DC'd. Maybe he's crashing too. Not quite sure. What is going on? A lot of mangoes again. The cost reduction. I think it was a cost reduction.
Yeah, it was. It went down from 150 to 125. Although, usually that doesn't mean very much. Mango is an item that you're going to be building with your starting gold, and so it does have a huge impact. A thing that I'd like to see more players do is TP out to lane to place down their wards. I haven't seen it that much, and maybe it's just because I'm crashing every time we start a game. But, yeah, it's only 75 gold to do that now, and I think most offlaners can afford to. The counterplay still exists that you can do that on supports now as well. Things will start out very slow, mostly because we're paused. But as far as the ability for rotations from both of these teams, there's not really that much. The supports from either side are not the greatest at getting kills. Maybe Earthshaker can get a good fissure wall off to find a kill, and Pos is very good on his Shaker, but the damage... I crash again. This is not looking good.
Okay, I will do
Radio
Radio Dota
Dota.
casting. We have got just Tiny having some fun. Go Black down there alone. He actually has the brain sap again, so no enfeeble action on Tiny. And even if they did, Tiny has a lot of damage. You could still probably get some of those. Aloha Dance finally. Oh, no, actually, that's another salve coming out to him because of that first blood. Pretty poor, but now he's going to get the good harass out onto Ember Spirit, who has neglected to skill. I think he's gonna wait till the level 3 Flame God, but he is taking a lot of harassment from that Shadow Word. It's rough. In the meantime, Wicked Sick getting harassed out by Luft. I'm interested to see if this is gonna just become the new thing with Ogre Magi, where he just maxes Bloodlust. Right now has, of course, that first point in Ignite, but nothing else.
I like to see just straight up max ignite, like 1-4-1 as far as the build, but it looks like the Russian casters are also having a similar crashing issue, so at least it's not us. Or not only us, I should say. But yeah, I personally like the max ignite build for a lot of sustained damage in the lane, but this is another situation where you're against a Juggernaut who has built-in magic immunity, can get rid of that ignite and also sustain through it, that maybe we'll just see, again, as you said, the max out into the Bloodlust.
Yeah, Doom is gonna pick up the DD instead of poor Io. Also in this mid lane, he's taking huge amounts of damage. Doesn't have Flame God up right now either. He's bottle crowing, but the courier's not flying. I don't know. He tried to get a Searing Chains off on Warlock. No cigar though.
I'm really surprised that they don't put the IO Tiny mid, is the
Me
biggest thing
too.
for me. Because Warlock in a 1v1 scenario against Ember Spirit, it's actually a pretty good lane for Warlock. Not a lot of people would expect that, but he has a really good animation, he has good attack damage, he has a great way to sustain, and that nuke is absolutely obscene if you actually pull out the numbers. It does a ridiculous amount. And although Flame Guard is okay to sustain, Bottle Crying will help Cube. Right now, Warlock has this lane on lockdown. He's 14-12 compared to a 5-1 Ember Spirit. He's getting demolished. They need help.
Yeah, and they are trying to set up these ganks in bottom lane, but Doom is like... Well, Doom is a strength hero. He doesn't have much armor, but of course he does have that ring, and Bane's just gonna nightmare half of you when you try to come up, so I don't know what the play is.
Once they
Down,
get more
down.
levels on this Tiny, they can feasibly get kills, and they're going to look for an Avalanche Toss. They'll throw the Doom right up into the air, and finally can they get this kill? With the Scorched Earth, they'll be able to run out. The regen is insane, regenerating 34 HP a second, pretty much like Fountain Regen at this point, and they won't be able to get anything. Recent Doom buffs are going to mean that killing him off at this point is so very difficult when he has that Bane behind him. They need to help Cube. Bottom lane is not working out. They need some sort of Earthshaker Fissure. Maybe they can set up for a kill with it. As I already said, Warlock is a very immobile mid, but if you
Yeah.
let him do this, You're giving him way too much. Way too much.
He also, Warlock, he almost got killed by Ember Spirit, but of course that lost Shadow Word burning through the Flame Guard, and then Cube can't do anything else. He does have the combo back up again. Maybe he'll lure Aloha Dance to the rune. Here comes the Ogre Magi. Should be a dead Aloha Dance, but actually Cube just more interested in going for the rune. I think toning around getting the Searing Chains off a bit important there.
I don't think it's enough because Flame Guard would have expired shortly since they had the Shadow Word on him. The damage would have been over that threshold way too soon.
Oh, but here it comes. Here's the gank. There is the stun. Do they have the toss? There's the toss. I think this is a very dead Aloha Dance. Finally getting him off with the balls to the face from a moment. And yeah, just a nice clean kill on Warlock, which they really needed to help out Cube's lane. As you said, finally rotating.
Yeah, at this point, I'd even consider putting the Ember Spirit bottom, but bottom's not a very hospitable lane for Ember either. It's Doom Bane, very annoying. A lot of damage can come out from those two, and maybe even more annoying. It's just two tanky heroes that you can't dislodge, so they're going to be contesting you for farm. The early game advantage is vastly in the favor of the Dire side. The kill score looks really even. It's 2-1 in the kill score, but if we take a look at the CS numbers, 30 and 18, 26 and 17, 19 and 5, these are all Dire heroes at the top of the chart. Nobody on the Radiant is really even close.
Yeah, but realistically, I think the Radiant scale a little bit, it's hard to say, right? Because of these
really
big team fight ults. Oh, he just Searing Chains and then has to walk away because of that Shadow Word. But I think it's hard to say, but a tiny IO, we've seen how they're a great taking down tower combo. At the same time, with these big team fight ults, but I think if this went purely, like, super late, oh, another stun coming out bottom, they're actually going to toss up the Doom, and the Fissure not going to block him off, actually not latching. Doom just going to stand and take it. He takes quite a few of those Wisp Balls, and yeah, finally done.
That'll help them out so much. They're chasing forward for Go Black. They have an Avalanche cooling down 1 second under the tower. Avalanche is there, and the toss combination will do a good amount of damage with the Fissure. Maybe they have enough, but Bane, excuse me, is incredibly tanky as far as supports are concerned. Has the stick charges, kills off the IO, and will survive. Getting the Doom is nice and all, but this is time where Tiny isn't farming, and now Doom is right around the corner. He doesn't have any way to kill off Xinxus, however. The spells that he has right now, he has an Alpha Wolf devoured, which is nice and all. Don't get me wrong, but it's also not that great for killing. Hasted left is going to chase forward for Aloha Dance. This might be an opportunity if Ember Spirit was closer. I think Aloha Dance should be able to just Shadow Word himself and survive through it, although the Ogre is going to put a lot of damage into the Warlock. It's not enough. He's going to Fire Blast him up. He's dropping low. Remnants forward, and with the Ember Spirit now, can they kill him off? They cancel the auto attacks, and Aloha Dance will survive. Cube gives up the chase. In the meantime, Radiant's Courier is going to die to the Warlock Golem in mid. Ogre Magi does tick down the Warlock so very close, diving under tier 2s to get that 4-2 as our kill score, and it's not done yet. Paz is down towards bottom, getting dove by Resolution. The Scorch Earth is expired. Paz gets a successful juke, and Resolution won't be able to secure that kill. Where did that Courier actually die? No, that was walking through the creep wave, not necessarily to the Warlock Golem. That's Ember Spirit's bottle being sniped.
Yeah.
Who actually gets the better half of that exchange?
Because of how long it took them to kill the Warlock and the fact that it was on the Ogre Magi, it's really rough to say this, yeah. I think it is in a little bit of their favor for finally killing off the Ogre Magi. He'll just have to live without his bottle. The other thing to mention is this Ogre Magi definitely going the Fireballs to maxing build. I prefer this, but as you say, that is not sure damage.
And also, it's ignoring the recently buffed Bloodlust, and especially when you have a Tiny on your team, I think Bloodlust, even just 1 point. Like, if you're not going to fully max, you're going to invest in your damaging spells first, you need at least 1 point at this spot in the game. At this level for Luft. It's very risky, but on the off chance that he does get lucky multicast with those Fire Blast, it does do a little bit more damage, but even then, it's not super significant. We'll just have to see how it pays off. It's a risk.
Yep, and they might be going for that risk up in top lane. Earthshaker's probably going to lead with the Fissure, seeing what they can do. The Glyph is done. They need the Fissure coming out. They don't have it. What's going on? FN actually turning around. That isn't the multicast they wanted. They get one on Ignite. He has Spin, and he's just going to try to TP out. They don't have anything to stop him here. Not nearly enough damage. They'll go on Disrupted, though. Is he going to glimpse someone back? He does glimpse back to the Ember Spirit, but he dropped a Remnant, so he's going to be A-okay. Flame God finally up, just burning down Wicked Sick on that Disruptor, and that is a not so clean, but very nice kill for this Radiant side.
Yeah.
IO's starting to do work. But yeah, as you saw, Luft, if he had the Bloodlust, maybe a more sure kill on the Jug, right? He didn't get the multicast, so...
I think that's completely fine, though. Well played by Ember Spirit. Good presence of mind to drop that Remnant as he's getting glimpsed. And they'll find themselves some kill involvement for this Ember. Down towards bottom lane, trying to save this Tiny. Remedying forward again, will get the kill onto the Ember. However, Bane will kill off the Tiny in trade. A pretty even exchange there. If Cube could get his hands onto Go Black, that's a different story entirely, but just doesn't have the mana. Earthshaker in mid, getting dove. Warlock commits the ultimate for it. The attack speed still coming out from Tether is going to mean that he's not able to kill off a moment. Didn't get lucky flaming fist procs. Pauses around the corner, has the Fisher cooling down in 5 seconds, but he's also at 20 HP. They get the multicast onto Aloha Dance. This is where that Fire Blast build does pay off. The healing, however, onto Aloha Dance is pretty significant. The Fisher walls off the Ogre, too fat to walk around that corner. I will be right-clicked down by the Warlock. Aloha Dance is sticking around, still has that Golem at about half HP. Will get one punch into Tiny, but doesn't do hardly enough damage. The Avalanche will come through. The toss is there as well. One punch, Fire Blast will be there, and Tiny secures the kill. The Warlock still stands, or the Warlock Golem, excuse me, but it can't do
They're
anything.
about to run into an Invis Go Black. I don't know if there's much he can do here. He doesn't have the Fiend's Grip, but maybe he'll see one for an opportunity. Do they have Static Storm? Not quite yet. Still only level 4 on that Disruptor, but maybe they'll find Tiny out of position. They actually glimpse him back. He's not going on the Disruptor, and they just pick him off with that Toss Avalanche combo. Now Go Black taking a lot of damage, but there is the Doom. Resolution running onto Coupe. Maybe Go Black's gonna fall in these back lines. He's reduced some of that damage that he's taking. They do manage to tether away. Go Black is dead. Coupe taking a lot of damage. A moment maybe gonna go down. He is bottling up, but is probably gonna die. There's the stun. A moment needs to get away, but he wants to keep Coupe alive, and they're gonna do it. So a
Really
nice
well played by the
turnaround.
IO. Immaculate
And they're
tethers
still
there,
going.
and they got the
Aloha
toss.
Dance taking a lot of damage, but he manages to get out. Wow.
Yeah. Okay, so a moment was just dancing circles around them. Not only did he save his own life with that tether, but he tethers to the doomed Ember Spirit. And Ember Spirit was anything but doomed by the end of that. The extra HP sustain coming out from the tether and the bottle heals sticking around for that kill onto the Doom hero is going to mean that the kill advantage for Germany is pretty significant. 10-4 is the kill score, but still the Ember Spirit is not farming nearly as fast as the Juggernaut. Juggernaut's almost tripling up Cube's CS, but if we take a look at how this transitions into net worth, the advantage, although it once was quite large in the Dire's favor relative to the time inside the game, has remained stagnant at about 2,000, the net worth lead for the side of Ukraine. By no means is this an easy game for the Radiant side, but since the Ember Spirit's been so active around the map and so well placed with all of his remnants and just getting the damage out from the Flame Guard and what have you, they've found themselves in a situation where they definitely could come back. Even without items, Tiny's burst combo is almost at its peak.
Yeah, and there's also something to be said. Juggernaut is a very interesting carry depending on his item builds. He's got the Mosque. Never mind, there's no time to talk. There is business going on. Bottom Resolution has Doom in 5 seconds, but there's the multi-calls. Now they're getting Fiend Script up on Tiny, but taking very little damage. Io trying to save him with that Overload, and now Resolution finally gonna have that Doom ready, but can Io keep him alive? There is the Glimpse back as well. Pass trying to see what damage he can do. Luft, Nightmare up. Now here comes Mr. Juggernaut. He has that Omni Slash and only hits on Pass. Luft must be really sad. Tried to share some of that with him, but if he can get a multi-cast here out on FN, he can't see anyone. He doesn't seem to want to do it. The Mask of Madness is over. The Doom's over as well. Searing Chains on 2. What a beautiful play from Cube, and there is the stun, but then there is the big Golem coming out of the earth. Resolution still tanking up so much. Warlock kills up Ogre Magic. Some spirits hit him in the face, but it's not enough, and a moment's gonna go down as well. Only the Ember Spirit getting out alive. It seemed like they could maybe turn that around on the Radiant side, but just not having enough in the tank.
The tower gets destroyed by the Dire 2. They're going to find themselves with a great team fight. Although, yeah, as you said, there were a lot of points where that could have gone well for them, and especially since the Doom was mostly wasted, but by the end of it, Aloha Dance turns that fight completely on its head. With the chains connecting both the Io and the Tiny, they smack them both down, and just a couple of swipes, and the Omni Slash instantly killing off the Earthshaker was amazing. I will say that...
I was just gonna say, I wouldn't even say that. Never mind, we have a relocate. What is going on here? There is a stun. Good game being called. I'm not quite sure what that's about. There is a... I think he's Nightmared up. There's a misclick. We've got Wisp Balls. Need to hit someone in the face. Gold Black gonna go down as well. They take Aloha Dance out with those Wisp Balls, but Warlock does manage to take out Ogre Magi with his Golem, and finally the Golem falls. I was gonna say, I don't even think the Doom was wasted because it did force the Wisp to just heal up the Tiny for the entirety of that fight. But anyway, you were saying before we had relocate ganks coming out.
Yeah. The Ogre has been really lucky with its multicast on the Fire Blast in that last engagement, so his build is paying off, but they're jumping in mid, yeah, with the Avalanche on the Resolution, but a nice static Swarm. Doom turn around, they've got the Doom on the Eye, we can't do much about this. Resolution will chase forward with Scorched Earth movement speed, will be able to smack down a moment, no deny will be available. Eye is going to buy back, TPing into mid lane, Cube is fighting against the Doom, but it's a fight that he's losing, his Resolution's doing a lot of damage, but now that Tiny's here with the toss, Cube will find himself the dominating spree. The buyback in the Eye more than worth it now. Can they chase any further kills? Looks like the answer to that question is no, but the Dire team are reinforcing, but they've been spotted out by this Radiant Observer Ward. They know exactly where everybody is. They'll get the chains onto everybody, but now things will settle down. The fight has finally stopped, although for the last like 5-7 minutes of this game, these teams have been going at each other's throats.
Yeah, and when it comes to these big teamfight engagements, we talked about it earlier, a lot of long cooldowns on the Dire side, while the Radiant is ready to fight all the time, but they have to have almost perfect positioning, you know? The Omni Slash is back up. The Chaotic Offering's only 30 seconds on cooldown. They gotta be really careful. There's gonna be a fissure coming out, seeing what they can do to Aloha Dance. They try to get the hell out of that kinetic field. A little bit surprised they should know Static Storm's on cooldown, but probably just feeling too close.
Comes down on Cube. Aloha Dance now with the 15 seconds cooldown on his ultimate wants to fight. This is an engagement that the Dire team really would enjoy taking. FN's around the corner with an Omni Slash. Can't go on the Ember Spirit with this one. Can just remnant away from those Omni Slash jumps. There's no way for him to cancel that Ember Spirit's TP, and he's going to go all the way back to base, but has a Remnant on the ground next to that tower. A gigantic Remnant too. Omni Slash is there on the left, and Pos instantly kills off the Ogre and drops Pos very low. Blade Fury TP. No way to cancel that except for Toss. Now with the Warlock Golem on 3. They'll look for the turnaround. Fiend's Grip will be canceled by those chains. Static Storm holds Cube in place, but Aloha Dance and Gold Black are a little too low with that Avalanche Toss combination. Buyback from the Ogre Magi. Remnant away by Cube will keep him safe. Doom will take down the tier 1 tower. What a mess of a fight.
Yeah, Cube actually having really fantastic positioning, all things considered, in a lot of that team fight. Oh, it's maybe not over. What do they want to do? They have an invis. What? But you're smoked. Okay, I was like, how did you both pick up invises? Not always awake. They're gonna probably find somebody here, although the Doom is behind them, and he does have Doom up. They're gonna stun, toss. It's gonna be a very dead disruptor, but here comes the Doom. This is also a very dead Io, and Tiny like, I want to get out, but Nightmare up. What can he do? Maybe the deny on the Io. Need a few seconds. It looks like maybe Pulse is gonna be the one to help him out there, but they have a stun on Resolution, and Resolution is most likely gonna fall. Just waiting to get the deny on Io. They're all gonna get it as a
deny
team.
him. He would have survived.
Would he?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's awkward.
It's fine. What does it matter? It's an IO.
No, you're an IO. You're like, I could have had a Glimmer Cape. I don't know. I would be sad.
His item progression was pretty much shot already, and he did buy out. He didn't lose gold.
So he's a-okay, but yeah, always fun to get a deny. Doom, one of the few heroes you can get denies against, so always fun there. Warlock almost has the Ags though, and it does make it a bit harder in these team fights. This Ember Spirit has already been trying to have very good positioning against the Golem. He's gonna have to get even better about it.
Yeah, for sure. The IO would have been a really close death, so I think it's better to take the safe play and just deny him instead of chancing it, but it looked like he would have been alright. The game has settled down a little bit, but Dire still, despite being at a kill disadvantage, are getting a lot more farm on their carry heroes. The Juggernaut, he hasn't been nearly as active as Cube around the map, but has still been very influential inside the fights, and now almost has a completed Sanjin Yasha, should he want to go for that, on top of having the Mask of Mana's phase boots. We're getting a little bit of a glimpse of the Juggernaut of old, and he's getting a lot of farm, and right now the heroes on the Radiant side just don't have enough armor, Ogre excluded. But if you take a look, the Tiny and to a lesser extent the Ember Spirit just don't have a lot to deal with that raw amount of physical damage should they be locked down. Multicast in mid lane, 2 times on both the Ignite and the Fire Blast, but the Low-Head Dance is fine.
Yeah, and he got the Searing Chains proc on the Warlock, and there was an entire creep wave. That was impressive. But yeah, Aloha Dance taking a bit of harass, of course, with that Shadow Word, can heal right back up. He does have the Ags, though. And now they're going for Roshan. This is one of those things where you don't want to fight in that pit against a Warlock, and even if you did, it doesn't matter because Roche is falling super fast. Jug with that Mask of Madness doing so much. Doom's actually gone. Vlad, here comes a Remnant, but it's going to be way too late. No way he can steal that. They stun out on the Doom, and they try to bail out on the side of Germany. But, oh, there's a nice fissure just to block him off. And Doom, oh, the glimpse back, though. Goodbye, Mr. Ogre Magi. It's been nice luft. He falls.
He
But
falls
in
to
mid
the
lane, we
Doom's
got
crit.
business. What happened? Both chaotic offering dropped. There's maybe gonna kill Aloha Dance. They have 6 seconds. Io taking way too much damage. They actually kill both of the. Oh, he blows up, and there are the bounces to Tiny. He's gonna go down as well. Eventually, just needs one more auto attack, and the Bane takes it with that brain sap, and just a disastrous turnaround. 2 seconds on that relocate. Just couldn't make it in time.
And just like that, we now have a steady advantage being made by Ukraine. It looked shaky at times. There were a lot of good team fights taken out by the Radiant team. Germany were showing signs of life, but now that these cooldowns are up, the side of Ukraine really feel like they're unstoppable, at least in this next upcoming push for the Tier 2. The Tier 3 probably will be defendable, but I kind of like how they're layering these cooldowns. They're not blowing, like, Chaotic offering, Doom, Fiend's Grip, all of their ultimates in the same fight. They use like one, take a good engagement there, then go for another, and by the time that they cycle through, they'll have at least a couple of them available for each push. The Tier 3 is going to be dropped down to about a third of its HP. TP to the tower coming out from the Tiny. They want to catch somebody on this retreat, but without something like the Disruptor on the enemy team, catching somebody is very difficult. No blink on the Tiny, no real way for them to get in range. They'll try for the Avalanche, but it's too far away. They catch eyes under Resolution, but he's walking up this high ground without vision, right into a Fiend's Grip. They'll cancel the Fiend's Grip with a good chance coming out from Cube, but they'll still lose. Echo Slam from Puss, my goodness, onto the 3 with a follow-up Fissure. They'll drop them low, but they don't quite have the damage to push any of these heroes over the edge. They really needed the Ember Spirit closer by. They'll try to get a return kill, double multicast onto Aloha Dance, but Aloha Dance is going to survive. Where was Cube after that Echo Slam? Yeah. Before
the Echo Slam, he got doomed, and he just not TP. He was just taken home by Io, I believe.
Yeah, so he wasn't able to contribute after the fact. So although it was a very flashy Echo Slam, the first one after the Blink Dagger purchase coming out from Pos, it just wasn't quite enough. Since the Tiny was dead and the Ember Spirit was removed from the engagement.
Yeah, an unfortunate team fight, but I have to wonder how, I mean, with high ground with golems, you can definitely do some good work. Golems building damage was reduced. Tiny Earthshaker, Ember Spirit seems like they have some wave clear among them. So it might be harder to siege this high ground, but if they keep getting off these beautiful chaotic offerings and Dooms on the IO or the Ember Spirit, you know, the Dooms have been pretty on point.
Yeah, and across the board, the play coming out from Ukraine has been good. Although, I think it goes to show how well Germany are playing, that they still have the kill score tied, despite being at such a disadvantage when it comes to farm. But this farm disadvantage is starting to reach critical mass. They have the healing ward down on the ground, sustaining them, even though Resolution's taking tower and a lot of Wisp Spirits. This feels like it's getting close to a last-ditch effort. They still have about 2 minutes left on this Aegis. Resolution and FN are clumped up. The Avalanche is going to only get one of the stuns onto Resolution. The Tier 3 has already fallen. They can't really jump into this. Without the Echo cooldown, this is such a hard defense. They'll get the stun FN, but it's not a multicast. It still has that Aegis from, keep in mind. They'll get the relocate in. They have the Avalanche. Toss is there, but just not enough damage with the bonds connecting everybody. They're getting ripped to shreds. Cube will run back into his base, remnanting away, but the melee barracks die to the chaotic offering golems.
Yeah, not feeling like there's much they can do. Pulse gonna go down. He glimpsed back, falling. I think it was a bit of a mistake to try and engage like that, but it felt like they didn't have any other options on the side of Germany. I mean, what else could they have done? Maybe a relocate further backwards would have helped, but at the same time, relocate so telegraphed, really easy to get the static storm out on top of them. So Ukraine probably going to take 2 sets of racks here, and I don't think they have the heroes that helped if multicast. Is he going to burn down? That's the Aegis at the very least. Looked feeling very good, but he's glimpsed back, put in a kinetic field. He can't get outside of it. Now he's going to inevitably fall. Maybe we'll get up a multicast. No, isn't able to get one off. And there is the Omni Slash coming out, picking off Io as well. This Rack's certainly going to fall. 3v5, if any, defense coming out. Jug pretty much in their base. Tiny finally has that Aghanims up. He actually had it lost team fight, just didn't have it delivered to him, but yeah, it's gonna help against the big creeps. Nice Echo Slam coming out. Where's the follow-up? Tiny does do that Avalanche combo, but there's a Glimmer Cape coming out on FN. They don't be able to see him. They finally do. He mounts off the Searing Chains, and Ember Spirit taking so much damage, trying to get away, but don't know how much of this he can take. Nightmare up Tiny, and Aloha Dance looking for that Ember Spirit so he can.
He has a refresher inside the base.
Yeah. He doesn't have enough mana for it though, and he's gonna go down, having popped his refresher and having no mana. He's gonna go down to this burn. One last hit of the Tiny doing it, so Tiny getting 2 kills. Multicast out on Gold Black as well. Gold Black gonna fall here, tossed up into the air in a very, very dead horse nightmare thingy, but yeah. Bane down. I mean, it's a good fight after the fact, but you already probably lost about 7,000 net worth, losing 2 racks.
Easily, and even if the net worth trade is 7,000 in the favor of the Radiant side, the map control that's offered by having not one but two lanes of super creeps is so very hard for them to deal with. Tiny's Aghanims helps for sure, but Tiny's not farmed to a point where he can comfortably stay out alone. He needs the IO behind him. He's forced into going for this BKB, and we kind of already talked about it inside the draft. BKB is not enough by itself. He needs pretty much a full 6 slot. He wants the item that Doom's currently sitting on. He wants an Assault Cuirass too, but that's not going to be an option. They can hold against these super creeps, but can they win? That's another question entirely, and I'm tempted to say no, but there is a slim chance.
Yeah, 23 minutes, super creeps, really scary. Ember Spirit has the Battle Fury. He's gonna get, quote, kind of, and he's always gonna have somewhat of farm now that these creeps are pushing in. Of course, they're reduced farm. I don't know, and I don't even know what you go on an IO in a state like this. Like, he's been buying up smoke, seeing if he can find anything, but it is rough.
That's what you buy. You can't actually get any item progression. You're just the consumable purchaser. You'd love to have a Glimmer Cape, but Glimmer Cape is also not going to be the end-all be-all. The team of the Dire has more than enough gold to where they can consider buying a gem. Actually, I haven't looked at Disruptor's items. This is... that's a build.
Yeah, I've seen this type of thing before. It's kind of cutesy here. It works because they're far ahead. Again, maybe they'll get into a bit of trouble like the last game where they were far ahead, but...
Not as clowny as the Mask of Madness. I think going for normal utility items would have been a little bit better for them, but he's incredibly tanky. This is a Disruptor with 1252 HP and with a Blade Mail. If this were an Ogre, I wouldn't even think twice about it, but maybe 4-step, maybe Ags would have helped more, but it doesn't matter when you have these tanky frontliners wailing away at this tier 3. Multicast, pretty good on resolution. The Doom, however, gets his Doom off onto Cube, and taking this fight with a Doom Ember Spirit's almost impossible. Blink and Bash instantly onto Posse, gets the Echo Slam off, but that first hit Bash means that there's absolutely nothing that they can do to hold this. Fiend's Grip with the Omni Slash onto the Tiny, and that's effectively a good game. FN is just laughing, as he probably should. Maybe not in all chat, but
really unfortunate that he got the first hit Bash. I mean, really ruined the Echo Slam. They also picked off the Tiny through the BKB, as we talked about, so many spells going through it. Looks like that's going to be our GG, but a really good showing between these two teams. Germany getting close both times, and hoping to see more out of this team.
That is going to be the 2-0 win for Ukraine over Germany in this series, and it was a pretty convincing one. Despite having some really good fights and really good execution, it felt like they were a little bit outclassed when it came to their farming rotations and being able to make space on the map. The control that Ukraine had was very difficult to dislodge. Still, they were entertaining games, and I'm glad we were here to watch them. I'm glad you were here to watch them as well. Thanks for tuning in to ProDota. I've been GrandSV. She's been Llama Down Under. You can find us on Twitter under both of those names. Shout out to the sponsors, Hisbox, esportgaming.com, Dota 2 Lounge, G2A, and Gosu Gamers. And we'll be back with more series, but not today. Unfortunately, that is going to be the last one for the evening. And good game well played to both teams. I'll be GrandSV and Llama Down Under signing out.
Peace out.